Well, it's a terrific Thursday morning here in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital, and we are counting down to the end of the month of October, as well as 2025, barely just 2 months to go this year. I am Kelly Egiga.
And October wraps up in a beautiful way. Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka.
Bukola, these are indeed very interesting times. So I'm tempted to ask you, how are you? And then I'm also tempted to ask you, how are you really? And if you say you're fine, I'm going to ask you again, how fine are you?
Against a backdrop of the circumstances, either you're talking about what's in your pocket, what you're able to buy in terms of the measure of petrol in your car, that's if you have one, because towards the end of 2023 and 2024, many Nigerians began parking their vehicles and hopping on public transport. And then how much is left in your pocket that you're able, to use to purchase foodstuff in the market? It's a very valid question. But to that, I'd say that I'm privileged to be thriving amid it all.
Yeah. I like the sound of that. She's thriving and not surviving. Well, some of us are having to survive. Well, how are you? And thank you so much for joining us on the show this Thursday.
Well, Kelly, I don't believe that. Not with this dapper suit that you're in.
No, I mean, it's just black and white. This is not about me. All right, guys. So much to unpack for you today, but let's get things started this morning with the fact that finally the newly appointed service chiefs were screened and confirmed yesterday by the Senate. So the job has been done and dusted. We do have new service chiefs. Remember, this event was supposed to take place next week, but Mr. President had to write a letter to the Senate President and the Senate asking that this be brought forward or moved forward to Wednesday, October 29, which was yesterday. And they indeed got the job done. The Senate, with the screening. For every time Mr. President writes to the Senate, my concern is the use of the phrase, quote, expeditious consideration. That's my concern. And so it's always a case of the Senate and the Senate President reading the President's letter. The person or persons appear before the Senate, the Red Chamber, and then it's almost a case of take a bow and leave. But I think that perhaps the Senate yesterday would have taken some time to do and ask some key pivotal and essential security questions, because Mr. President says that he is having to bring about this reshuffle or this change or whatever the word you prefer to describe it as, because he wants to revamp Nigeria's security architecture. Many persons have had to cast a doubt over that particular decision, because many say that, this is perhaps not unconnected with rumors of attempted coup, and that's why we saw this very hasty and sudden change of security chiefs. So whatever the reason is or are for carrying out these decisions, Nigerians' concern is that we want a safer country. We want to drive at any time of the day, particularly in cities like Lagos, Abuja, where sometimes these cities never get to sleep. In Lagos, for instance, we work 24 hours, and we never get to sleep. But we want to go back home to a safe and peaceful environment. In the north, for instance, where we understand there's some sort of resurgence of Boko Haram activities, we're even hearing that the assembly is even afraid or scared because they received a report that terrorists are planning to bomb the National Assembly. So hopefully these new service chiefs, perhaps since they are new, there's so much energy and vigor and strength, perhaps they'll carry out some sort of positive impact, and we cannot wait to see what they will bring to the table. There are also concerns about the welfare of these people who defend our territorial integrity, especially those of them at the front lines. I think we need to do more for them. We need to do more in terms of their welfare. If you ask an average Nigerian parent now, would you like your son or daughter to be a part of the military or the police or, Navy or Army? Or would you like your son or daughter to be posted to the northern part of this country, the northeast precisely? I'm sure you know the answer to that question, Bukola. Indeed.
Well, quite a lot to reflect on from the confirmation of the Senate screening yesterday, particularly when you heard the positions expressed by the military chiefs while they answered questions from lawmakers. And one of which is significant is that from the newly confirmed CDS, General Olufemi Oluyede, who was, frontal in saying that the enablers in fighting terrorism are not there, and he called for support from the federal government. He also spoke to a challenge being the dependence on imported military hardware to fight all these emerging new security challenges, and asked for local manufacturing of military hardware. And Nigeria is beginning to show up in that space with the establishment of DICON. But he also spoke about the need to strengthen the police to show up more definitively in the fight against internal insurrection. And those are the matters, those are the issues that have shaped the conversation as far as security is concerned. Now, if the CDS is saying that the enablers are not there, then we might want to place a question mark on the trillions of naira that have been spent on defense budget, allocated to defense in the last decade. Where did it all go? That's the question we should be putting through past committees, both House and Senate, on defense, and on putting through to past ministers of defense. In this year's budget alone, 4.21 trillion naira, I believe, has been allocated to defense. So what's the justification for this huge sums? And that's a very significant portion of the 2025 budget anyway. So where is it all going to? And, Kelly, I was thinking about it yesterday. 45,000, is that the number of security personnel have been deployed to
just the police? Yes, 45,000 police officers.
Yes, have been deployed to Anambra for the election. Where are all these police officers when it matters the most? When communities are attacked unprovoked in Plateau, in Benue, and moving further down south, in Kwara State and in Kogi State, where are these numbers? These numbers are evidently not there. And all of a sudden, we have 45,000 security policemen deployed to Anambra State. And that's besides, according to our, in the analysis of our guests yesterday, that's besides the number of other intervention agencies like the NSCDC who will also be deployed. So we must go beyond the rhetoric of fighting terrorism, insurgency, and banditry, and, do what is needful. Where is the political will to back up all of these issues? So that came through from the Senate screening yesterday, and beyond the headlines, we should reflect on the real issues. Kelly.
Yeah. Well, so, all eyes are on these service chiefs, and we hope that they can indeed make true to their words. And you've raised some very compelling remarks and arguments there, Bukola. Let's get to see how these new service chiefs, because there's also the question mark as to why retain or promote the former army chief to the chief of defense staff now, General Olufemi Oluyede. Why keep him? Why, ask the others to leave and then you're having to promote him and all of that? But hey, let's give them some time. We understand this is a new chapter, perhaps, for Nigeria's security architecture. Let's stay positive and optimistic. But away from security, something else gets our attention this morning right here in the city of Lagos, or perhaps the boundary area between Lagos and Ogun State. Yesterday, we told you about Otedola Bridge. This morning, we have images of something not too pleasant. Again, some would say it's that time of the year where there is always these kind of accidents or incidents. This time around, it's the Kara Bridge, where we understand some trucks, multiple trucks, we understand about 3 or 4 were involved in some sort of accident, and there you see images there of some of these trucks involved. What we understand now is that this traffic, though the accident happened somewhere at Kara, but it has caused some sort of gridlock, which has gotten up to the areas of a beggar. But take a look at this particular image there of the truck just hanging by the bridge. I mean, I don't know how else to say this, because it's really, really very troubling. We get to see this over and over and over again. And while we try to question, the government needs to put some things in place as regards the quality of roads, infrastructure, and all of that, I think we also have some sort of work to do as motorists. The state of the trucks that we drive and the cars that we drive. I understand that our producer, Emmanuel, has live images for us because he's currently on that section of the road, that axis of the road. Emmanuel, perhaps thank you so much for bringing us up to speed, and let's see if we can have those live images as well now from your end, so we can just get to show our viewers a clue of what is going on this hour at the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, particularly outbound Lagos. This, you can see the images there around the Beja area or Tedola area, where you can see that some Nigerians are now having to even, highlights from their cars and having to use their legs. Bukola.
Yes, we understand that Emmanuel is ready to talk to us. Is not ready to talk to us, but we hope that he will join us soon. But he's been able to provide us with these images. We understand that Emmanuel is ready. Emmanuel Oshobaju. Emmanuel, good morning, Emmanuel. Yes, Emmanuel, it's unfortunate that you are caught up in that traffic. We're really looking forward to starting together this morning, but it's also good that you're able to provide these images such that we can put out the traffic advisory to all our viewers at this point in time. Tell us if you witnessed the incident as it happened, or if it had happened before you got to this point where you were able to take these images. But what do you know about how it really occurred? Hello, Emmanuel. All right, Emmanuel will join us as soon as possible, but these are the images.
Yeah, these are the images.
And it's really, really worrying how this may have occurred. There are many suggestions, but we don't have the details unless Emmanuel provides the details to us at this point in time. But it may have happened early in the morning, and these trucks are carrying goods. And you see that they have tumbled over. They may need to, the officials of the Federal Emergency Management, Roads Management Agency rather, may need to conduct a test on that portion of that bridge that looks to have been damaged by that truck, perhaps maybe over speeding, but it seems to have taken an unusual reverse turn and hit the pillars of the bridge. That's what we can see at this point in time, because safety must be ensured for travelers on that road in the future after this time out. But this is also to call on emergency officials and, of course, officials of the Federal Road Safety Corps to get to the scene immediately and get the trucks off of the road, because inevitably this has caused a tailback that will deter, or as the case may be, prevent travelers inbound Lagos from getting to their destination on time, and those, going out of Lagos to get to their destination on time. And if you're yet to set out, here's a traffic advisory for you. This is what is happening currently at the Kara end of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, and this is outward Lagos, by the way. Yes, this is outward Lagos.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yesterday we mentioned it, the fact that by this time of the year, we're always, I don't know what was it with the Ember months and having to see these kind of common sights we mentioned Otedola Bridge yesterday, and then we forgot to mention Kara Bridge. So, but I know that these two bridges, the Kara Bridge and Otedola Bridge, is you know, I think we're sort of used to seeing this kind of accidents. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why. If there's any sort of myth behind it, or we tried not to sound very religious yesterday, but I mean, here we go again. But before we begin to say it's the Ember month, that's why, let's play our parts, let's play our roles as citizens and as Nigerians. But that's what is happening right now. These are live images for you.
And you know the Federal Road Safety Corps.
Yeah, we're told that Emmanuel is, Emmanuel, can you speak to us now?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. Thank you for sharing these live images with us.
Yes, I'm live at the event with the place where the accident happened right now. As you can see from my screen, if you're seeing it, you're seeing the truck. The head of the truck actually fell inside the water. You can use my shot. That is the tire of the truck inside the water.
Whoa.
Oh dear.
Right now, yes, the head is completely submerged inside water. Yeah. So as you're saying it, this is just the remaining part of the body of the truck. And you're saying it has caused a major gridlock from here down to Ojota. Everywhere is on standstill. And even to the other side, you can see vehicles are now using the other side. You can see vehicles now following the other route out of Lagos. So it's really a standstill as it is at the moment. There are so many security officials here.
Is it possible to put your phone on perhaps landscape view so we can have a proper view of what is happening?
Yes, it's on landscape. It's on landscape.
Okay, because we're having the images the other way around. Perhaps it's rotating or something.
All right.
So we'll
try to get that fixed. But Emmanuel, can you tell us if you know what caused this particular accident?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to speak with the security operatives to know what caused this accident. And I think it actually happened early hours this morning. So everywhere is on shutdown right now. If you can just give me a few minutes, let me ask the FRSC and then the last man people here, and then I'll get back with you in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for these live updates, Emmanuel. Thankfully, you've confirmed for us that we do have officials of the Lagos State Traffic Management Agency there, as well as the Federal Road Safety Corps. So it's interesting and indeed good to hear that we have these first responders right there, on emergency responders on ground. Hopefully, they can fix this as soon as possible. Bukola, this is the busiest expressway, perhaps in West Africa, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. It's the busiest highway, perhaps in West Africa.
Indeed, Kelly. You know, we've had this conversation before about the concern that this is the only major exit point to other parts of Nigeria. All the other routes, if you consider Ekpe, according to travelers, they're not as smooth sailing for travel and safe as the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. If you're going to the north, if you're going to the south, the southeast, it's Lagos-Ibadan Expressway.
And even other parts of the southwest.
Indeed, it's Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. And you can get to Ondo from other expressways. And this is just to draw this to the attention of the Minister of Works, if he's watching, such that there can be other interventions can be considered. Thankfully, there is, the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Project, which is currently mired in controversy. But that that accident gives me, the jitters, particularly when Emmanuel told us that the head, maybe that is, the portion where you have the driver's seat and the bonnet has fallen into the water.
And it's been submerged.
Their casualty, or are there casualties? How many people were seated in front of the vehicle? We hope that they can still be saved at this point in time. According to reports, the accident happened earlier on. So we'll try to get Emmanuel back to bring us up to speed with the situation there at the Kara portion of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, such that we can know what exactly happened and provide more information. And this is also to speak about the need for alternative means of transport for cargo goods, such that roads can last longer and it can be, decongested. We'll have lesser activity and volume of vehicles on the roads. Indeed, the weight and the sheer numbers of articulated vehicles on our expressway is a major contributor to the wear and tear of these roads and the need, for constant maintenance and expenditure of very, very invaluable funds to maintenance of the roads. These are the issues, Kelly. Yeah. What happened to the rails that are currently being constructed and the intervention that the rail transport can provide for cargo goods? These are the conversations that we should be having, and that they being had with the security agents, with the emergency agencies like, the Federal Road Safety Corps, with, these companies that bear cargo goods. Those are the issues.
All right. So we'll bring you more updates as soon as we get there, but let's get to walk you through some of our highlights for you today, Thursday, October 30, on the Morning Brief. Yes, well, first we get to take you again to southeast Nigeria, Anambra State precisely. Again, we are counting down to the elections there, the governorship elections. We're 9 days away. We'll get some perspectives on the program this morning.
And from there, the presidential pardon list, which has been reviewed by Mr. President, gets our attention this morning as we look at the sentences that have been commuted, the names that have been taken off of that list, and of course, other related issues.
Interesting to see the president has had to sort of backtrack a bit. But something else gets our attention this morning, and it has to do with your health and my health and the health of Nigerians, the issues, the controversies, the laws around abortion. Where exactly are we? We unpack these discussions for you this morning. That's our outlook, that's our radar this Thursday morning. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you indeed for staying with us. Up next, we get to take a look at the dailies. We're back in just a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Let's get to take a look at some of the papers this morning. I guess who joins us this morning as always from the Coal City, Dr. Ambrose Igboke joins us live now from the Coal City to review some of the dailies for us this morning. He's the President Guild of Public Affairs Analysts, Enugu State Chapter. He joins us live on the program. Dr. Ambrose, as always, good to see you this morning. Let's take a look at some of the papers this morning, and let's see what we can make of them, especially from your views. We'll begin perhaps with the Nigerian News Direct. New service chiefs vow to crush bandits, prioritize information management. New service chiefs vow to crush bandits, prioritize information management. Mr. Ambrose, or Dr. Ambrose, I should say, are you buying into this?
I don't know why you're asking me if I buy into it. We wish them luck. That is the only thing we'll say. Because every new set of service chiefs that come always talk like this. They always vow. Nigeria will always vow. And let's stop vowing. Let's start acting. Let's start taking actions and stop the vow. The vows are for religious people. For the service chiefs, they should take action. They should stop vowing.
Yeah. Are you also drawn into the debate as to the motive behind this reshuffling and questions around why perhaps promotes the Chief of Army Staff to CDS now, and then, I don't know if the word is fire or sack or relieve or make the others to retire? You know, are you also buying into that debate? Plus the rumors around perhaps an attempted coup. We understand the home of former Governor Timi Pres'l was raided yesterday.
Well, when there's a rumor about coup, most of the time it is, it always later comes out to be true over the years. From the history of coups and attempted coups, when most of the time, when you hear rumors, at the end of the day, it comes out to be somehow true. I'm not that. But again, when you talk about the reshuffling of the service chiefs, I think it's in the nature of the command and control of the military hierarchy. The commander-in-chief can reshuffle his team as whenever he wishes. So it's not a big deal. I told somebody last week when it happened that it is even easier for the commander-in-chief to change his service chief than for the president to reshuffle his ministerial cabinet, because the ministerial cabinet is you need to do a lot of consultation, party line, all those political things. But for the command and control, the military commander-in-chief, he can it at his pleasure. He can fire and hire anytime. So I don't see any big deal. And I think I learned that the service chiefs, that their time is over in terms of the service. Their course are supposed to have retired, their cosmates and the rest. So for me, it's not a big deal. That I say that the commander-in-chief does not need the rumor of a coup or stage. Some people are saying that, they staged the rumor of coup so that they can remove them. No, he doesn't need all those rules to remove the service chief. It's a routine thing in the military. So for those who are saying, they staged, no, he doesn't need all those rules. I mean, it is within his full capacity to do so.
Well, whether it was a coup or not, the most important thing is what is being done about our current realities as far as security is concerned. So the new service chiefs have our best wishes as they begin their work. Let's head to this Nigeria, and this Nigeria also has a full page dedicated to the service chiefs with a congratulatory message. But atop that is another story that has, elicited debate in the last couple of weeks, and the update on it is from the last 24 hours. Mr. Igboke, clemency, Tinubu reviews list from 175 to 35. Is this a major plus for the administration in terms of its ability to listen to Nigerians? Of course, this came on the heels of the outrage that trailed the initial clemency list.
Well, for me, I don't think the people who are advising the president on this matter are not doing a good job. And somebody needs to be fired up there. There have been too much somersaults of policies over time in the last 2 years that the president took over. We saw governing council of universities being changed here and there. We saw boards of parastatals. We saw appointments being overturned. Recently, we saw the appointments in the Nigerian Television Authority, the DG and some EDs being overturned. And this again. So somebody somewhere who is supposed to advise the president on the correct thing to do is not doing so. And this is ridiculing the office of the president. So I think the president needs to act. He needs to fire somebody whose office has been doing this, because it's causing a lot of embarrassment to the president. Remember, there was a time even dead people were on the list of some people that were appointed. This is not good. Why will somebody include names of this kind of people for clemency? And the president will not have time to go through this. I mean, he doesn't have that kind of time. That is why he employed some people to do it for him. And these people went ahead to ridicule the president. I think it's high time the president started acting. He should fire some of those people, no matter, because it shows that this is disloyalty. It's not loyalty anymore. And unless somebody is fired up there, these things will continue. And it's an embarrassment to the exalted seat of the president.
Well, Dr. Igboke, I mean, some will argue that Mr. President listens, so when Nigerians get to complain or have issues, or criticize, he's a listening president. I'm sure his handlers would love to make case for him, while others will say, you know what, I mean, he's the president. Is he going to fire himself? I mean, he puts pen to paper on some of his decisions. So many of the dailies are leading with this particular story. The Guardian as well says that FG backtracks on pardon as Nigerians question due process. So I wonder if perhaps, don't you think that, as I was just alluding to just a moment ago, that this is a president that perhaps when there is an outcry, he listens to his people. You know, I like the fact that how politicians always refer to Mr. President as the father of the nation.
Well, I agree that the president reacts when there is a outcry or feedback. But what I'm saying that those feedbacks and outcries are not even supposed to come in the first place if somebody somewhere has done his job rightly. Mr. President puts pen to paper, but if you know how these things work, he cannot, in all honesty, begin to go through each document sent to him. That is why he has advised. You know how many pages of documents that he needs to go through every day. And so that is why the federal government, through taxpayers' money, pays on people to do this job. That is why we have the advisors. That's why we have the office of the Secretary of the Federation. That's why we have the office of the Attorney General, Ministry of Justice, all those things, correctional centers. So these people are the people that are supposed to, guide the process and guard it. And they are supposed to know that these people are not supposed to enjoy those kind of clemency and pardon. So when you bring it, you see, the president is so much involved in so many macro problems, and also, so these are little things that are supposed to be taken care of by others, ought to be taken care of by others. But again, well, I will also agree with those who said that the president listens, because some people who are very arrogant out there, we have had these kind of instances where the president is very arrogant, where he refuses to budge, even when all the outcries in the world, he will close his ears. So for a president to even take back some of the things he has done because he was ill-advised, or he was the people who are supposed to do the process, they didn't do it well, well, you give that kudos to him. He has tried in that respect. But again, he doesn't need to be doing that kind of topsy-turvy kind of movement every time. He needs to fire some people so that people can stand up for what they are paid for to do. And because they have failed him many times, and this cannot continue.
Yes, Dr. Igboke, let's stay with The Guardian for just a moment. Top right corner of The Guardian newspaper has an interesting story there. It says, reps approve Tinubu's $2.34 billion loan, empower EFCC to seize assets without conviction. Yesterday, I mean, we made reference to the Emir of Kano, Mohammed Sanusi II, who says when it has to do with issues around borrowing, it's like Mr. President has taken out removed fuel subsidy, but then the borrowing, he described this as closing one hole to dig another. And I remember one of the papers yesterday captured the fact that a Nigerian, I mean, an average Nigerian is owing about 41,000 naira plus. That's how one of those dailies had to break it down for Nigerians to see. More borrowings, Dr. Igboke.
Well, sometime before the second tenure of President Olusegun Obasanjo, when Dr. Konjo-Iweala was the finance minister, we negotiated our debts, foreign debts, and we were able to exit a Paris club, exit some of the loans we owned, and we were on clean slates. And all of a sudden, we celebrated then all of a sudden we are back to a cycle of debt. The problem about the borrowing is not even the borrowing per se, it is what it is used for. We hear about conditional cash transfer, we hear about money, things that are intangible that you cannot even pinpoint, for recurrent expenditure. We are not borrowing for serious things that other countries borrow from. So borrowing is part of how countries survive, but what do we borrow for? That is what makes it different. And Nigeria has not shown any serious reason for what they are borrowing, because they are just borrowing to fund their excesses, borrowing to fund intangible things that are not contributing to national development. If we borrow to build rails, if we borrow to build more ports, if we borrow to enhance our education with technology, if we borrow to make all our teaching hospitals a place for medical tourism, if we borrow for national development, make sure that our agri, is boosted. Those are the things. If we borrow to become a more productive nation in terms of wrapping up capacity of industries and the rest, that we can now say yes, we can borrow. But when you go borrow to say, oh, we want to transfer money to this, we are buying presidential yacht, we are building a new vice president lodge, we are doing all kinds of flimsy things with the money we borrow. Then that is when we have a problem. And truly, Nigeria truly have a problem for borrowing so much for consumption and not for production.
Well, some would say that Nigeria's problem is not particularly revenue, but expenditure. It depends on, which side of the divide that you're on. But the Daily Independent is also focusing on revenue this morning. And the big story says, foreign inflows steady naira amid weak domestic FX supply. And just yesterday, the Bureau de Change operators were lamenting their inability to access Forex. So this good news about, steady Forex inflow, which areas, is it supposed to impact on that it's not impacting on, Dr. Igboke?
Well, for example, it's supposed to impact so much on the Naira-dollar parity, especially Naira-dollar is the metrics for most of the foreign trade we do. But the Naira is still struggling heavily. Forget these quick little wins we do here and celebrate as if we are celebrating something good. When Naira falls from 1,500 to $1 to 1,450, we start celebrating. And that is how shameless and down we have gone. Again, I heard and I watched an interview, Alhaji Dangote talked about how his refinery and local production has been able to bring down the rate at which Nigeria source for Forex. And he predicted that dollar will also fall against the Naira in the next 1 or 2 months. So that is one of the reasons, because one of the biggest sourcing for Forex in those days is always how to import refined petroleum products from foreign countries. That has also impacted so much. And then we remember that there were special rates given to CBN, given by CBN to all sorts of things. But now, so that time it was good to hoard dollar, and so that you can sell at manipulated high prices against the Naira. But when President Tinubu, made sure that floated the Naira, nothing, the dollar, nothing was, nobody was getting any special rate. Nobody was doing business. It was the same Sanusi, Emir of Kano, that started some years back. He could sit in his garden, make some phone calls, and make billions of Naira just by Forex manipulations. So that has stopped. So the demand is natural, it flows. So it's impacting on all that. Basically, our Naira becomes stronger. That is what the impact. But it's not impacting strongly on that. And I'm wondering why the exchange rate has not really gone down. But again, we are still import-dependent nation. And that is why we also still struggling with the Naira, despite the oil sector, petroleum sector having a relief from the Dangote refinery. We virtually import everything, even up to toothpick and tissue papers. That is a no-no for our country. Even our fabrics that we wear, that we used to produce in Kaduna textiles and so many other places, we now import. So unless our production really is standardized, and we go back to the years where we used to be a producing nation, our currency against major foreign currencies will continue to be weak points.
Well, it's a fine place to anchor a conversation with you, as always. Incredible analysis. Media consultant, Chairman Guild of Public Affairs Analysts of Nigeria, Enugu chapter, Dr. Ambrose Igboke. I was going to ask you perhaps what the mood is like in Enugu State since your governor defected, but let's leave it for another day. Thank you so much, as always, for your analysis, Dr. Igboke.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Well, we are not done with you just yet. We get to talk politics proper. And then, of course, precisely in Anambra State, where we are counting down to the governorship elections. We are 9 days away. What exactly is APGA and PDP cooking? That's in a moment. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. So we begin our conversations this morning by talking politics, and we return to Anambra State yet again. It's been a very busy political scene in Anambra, with the elections being just a few days away. And joining us this morning to help us understand what exactly is happening as far as the political parties are concerned, we have Mr. Ejimofor Okpara, the National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Grand Alliance. We also have Mr. Udoji Amedu, PDP stakeholder in Anambra State. Before we head to the ruling party in the state, let's begin with you, Mr. Amedu. First of all, gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Let's establish that you can hear us.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Thank you very much.
Indeed. So let's begin with Mr. Amedu. Of course, your candidate just months ago survived an assassination attempt, but he is back in the race. However, we want to know how well, he's positioned for the election. We've seen, of course, very visibly the ruling party campaigning and some other parties, but not exactly the PDP. How much of, the setback that he had months ago and perhaps the national challenges of the PDP is impacting on your campaign in the state?
Well, as you can see, he was attacked, but I don't think it is an assassination attempt. I met with him and he didn't say it was, in his own thinking, it was not, whether it was assassination or attempt or whatever, anyway, he was attacked, but I don't think it was an assassination attempt, because there was no point for that. But be that as it may, the important thing is that after the attack, or since after the attack, he has not been able to do any meaningful thing in terms of campaigning for the governorship election. So you can say that he has not been around.
And so why is that? Is it an absence of a war chest, as we say in politics?
Ab initio, I'm looking at what the party has turned into in the most recent time in Anambra State. There's been a crisis here and there, and that has affected the party so much. About this time, 4 years ago, we were really in the contest. You could see that we were in the contest about this time 4 years ago. So, and it was a very tough one. Then we were able to present a very strong and viable candidate. But this time around, because of the infighting, because of the issues, we were not able to. You can imagine, he was the only person that purchased the PDP form. That was strange, and you can see that it is affecting us. And then coupled with the fact that he had the attack, and maybe the funds were not coming. Election is everything about election is money, money, money. If you're going to the TV, if you're putting up your jingles, if you're doing advertisement, if you're going off rally of local government, it's all about money.
So we should take it.
Funds are not available.
So, Mr. Ojoji, we should take it for granted then
internal
that
wranglings and other issues in the party.
If you can hear me, Should we take it for granted then that the PDP is not going to put up a good showing, a strong showing at all on November the 8th? I doubt that Mr. Udoji can hear me. But let's go to, the APGA National Secretary now. Talk to us about the political atmosphere ahead of the elections. Are you satisfied? It's just a week away. Are you satisfied with preparations ahead of the election, the deployment of security, and of course, the electoral umpire preparations ahead of November the 8th?
Okay, good morning, viewers, and thank you for having me once again. Well, I wouldn't want to use the word satisfied, but I would say I'm in high spirits. I'm in a very high anticipatory mood. I look forward to a hitch-free, free, fair, and credible process. And I also have very implicit confidence in the electoral umpire and other stakeholders, that has one or two things to do with the process, with the electoral process. I have implicit confidence that they will do the right thing. And if that be the case, then maybe I will tell you that my party has no need to be afraid, of any of the outcome, because this is APGA land. Anambra is APGA land. It's almost taken for granted that Anambra is APGA's enclave. And if the election is free, fair, and credible, any day, anytime, then you rest assured that APGA would have the day. So looking forward to November 8th, where we are dotting our I's and crossing our T's. As it were, we are about the only party that is going about, engaging the people, campaigning massively, talking to the grassroots, and mobilizing our members, for the day. We have been very, very showy and quite outstanding in all our engagements. And beyond this, there has been quite unprecedented phenomenon happening with this particular election cycle. For the first time in the history of the state, we are seeing the rise of mass ownership. The people have owned this process, not just in words alone, but also in the personal commitment of their resources, into ensuring that the process is, is creditably executed. We have seen from Okada riders to students to teachers to parents to workers to various stakeholder groups, support groups, even non-partisans who have come up to donate, quite handsomely to the campaigns. And this for us is unprecedented. And we believe that this is only a reflection of their deep-seated experience
Mr. Okpara,
of good governance that our party has provided. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, Mr. Okpara, I'm not surprised how you sound, because as you mentioned, APGA has been the ruling party in Anambra State for quite some time now. But I'm sure when you take a listen to Mr. Udoji Amedu, who is a stakeholder in the PDP, lamenting about the candidate of his own party, it sounds like good news to you and your party, APGA. But there are those who accuse your party of perhaps being behind some of these internal issues. They accuse APGA of causing some of those disruptions in the likes of PDP, in the likes of, I think, Labour Party as well, as we hear in Anambra State, and the ADC.
Yeah, I like that you said accuse. Well, that's what it is, accuse. How do I put it? There's this common saying that a bad workman quarrels with his tools. And this is politics. Anyone who is going about accusing others for their own internal wranglings or internal undoings is just trying to, at best, be prevaricative or live in denial. APGA, as a party, we've also had our own fair share of the stormy days. We've had our own fair share of if you like, political upheavals. And not until November last year that the Supreme Court put a final verdict on the leadership of our party. And ever since, I can bet you that ABGA has remained the most stable political party, if not in the country. You know? So anyone going about accusing other parties, whether ABGA or another party, of their political misfortunes, then they are not ready yet to solve their problems.
All right.
Their problem at best is internal. And parties go through this process. But what makes parties unique is how strong they emerge after the upheavals. ABGA has emerged strong. We're like the phoenix. This is not the first or second time that ABGA has gone through these tussles. But one thing has been very unique about ABGA, that after all this, the party comes out stronger than it used to be. Well, I can tell you for free that ABGA is stronger than ever before.
Yeah.
And
we do have more. We do have more questions for you, Mr. Okpara, in just a moment. But I understand that Mr. Odoji Amedu is back with us. Perhaps this time we can have your visuals on the screen. So you are lamenting about your candidate in an election that is just barely 8 or 9 days away. Let me throw the same questions to you. Do you think ABGA perhaps is responsible for some of the internal wranglings in your party?
No, I don't think so. You know, of course, it is in the public domain what is happening in PDP, right from the national and even down to the state. Before now, all the issues we've been having in the state were, I would say, self-inflicted by the PDP. So you cannot. I do not think it is right to accuse ABGA.
Okay.
ABGA had their own issues. So and like Ejimofor said, they were able to come out of their own. But it's unfortunate that we couldn't solve our problems.
So who are you backing? Who are you backing to win the elections this November 8th?
Personally, not speaking for any other person, I am backing Professor Soludo. I'm backing him, even though I am PDP, and I will remain PDP, but I'm backing him. Right. So, because I've looked around, and of all the other candidates who have been going around, it might not. It's not true to say that other parties are not going around, they are not campaigning. APC is campaigning vigorously. You can see the Labour Party candidate, George Moral, going around. About 2 or 3 days back, he was in my local government in Ayama. So they are all going. They are trying to convince the electorate. But you see, I could still say that Soludo is stronger of all the candidates. Is stronger than all of them. It does appear that one could even say that he will win them all.
So Mr. Amedu, you're not giving your own candidate any credit at all for the election on November 8th?
He's my friend, but he has not been around. He has not been around.
So can we say that...
You started with asking me, what happened after the attack and all that and so on. So not long ago, I met with him in Abuja. He was still going on walking stick, trying to help himself. So if you are in that state of health condition, will you just carry it to begin to run around for campaign? But in any case, he should know better what is keeping him. But like I've already said, campaign and election takes a lot of money. I do not think the money is there. The party is not together to give him money and to help him and all that. So he has not been around. That's the truth of the matter.
Okay, so
because
we cannot
begin to go from what support or local government to local government without him.
So we can safely assume that you may be defecting any moment from now. The destination.
I am not defecting.
You are not defecting. All right.
I am not defecting.
All right.
Yeah, even though I'm supporting Soludo.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if I'm supporting him. I'm not defecting. I remain PDP.
All right. Let's take you to Mr. Okpara.
As a matter of fact, for the upcoming national convention, I'm a member of the accreditation committee. So immediately after the gubernatorial election, I'll be heading to Ibadan.
Okay. We wonder if your expression of support will be interpreted as anti-party activity by your party. But let's leave that for now. Maybe if we have time later, you'll be able to answer that. Let's go to Mr. Okpara. Mr. Okpara, yesterday, your principal, Governor Soludo in Ekusigo, I believe, clarified his comment on cash for reward. He said it was for canvassers, not for the electorate itself, and that the canvassers, who are your party members, constitute perhaps 2% of the voters. But let's look at his comment prior to that time, which was made in Ayamelum, I believe, prior to the Ekusigo event. He said, I quote, "When we were campaigning for the Senate, we knew we were going to win every ward in the South Senatorial Zone, but we still had some incentives. Any ward that APGA won received 1 million naira, and we won all the wards in Orumba South." He went ahead to say, "We promised each of these wards 1 million naira, and next week we will redeem it. The ward that comes first will get 5 million naira." Despite the defense put forward by the governor, isn't this a monetization of the electoral process that has shaped conversations as far as incentives for votes in the last decade of our election?
Okay, well, far from it, and I'm happy that your station captured that clarification, because that's been our stand all the while. And I've always mentioned this anywhere I go to, ever since this whole issue around the incentivization of our party members, canvassers, and agents, came into mainstream. And one thing I've always told people is that the crafters of the Electoral Act, understood the import of campaign funds before it was even allowed to find its way into, the laws. For you to say there has to be campaign funds. Campaign funds has to cover for every legitimate expenditure that a political party must undertake in the course of an electioneering or the course of an electoral period. And part of this includes I tell people that the job of a canvasser or maybe a mobilizer for a party or an influencer for a party, it's not a thankless job. It's not a yeoman's job, if you like. It's something that, that deserves some kind of reward, even though there's nothing in the laws that stipulates how much or whatever you have to give for that, in terms of remuneration or in terms of, a reward for that effort. But it's not a thankless job world over. So we tell people that in looking at the concept of vote buying, and maybe you may be looking at it from the perspective of what you give before or during the process. But whatever it is that you have to do to show up the enthusiasm, to show up, especially in a state like Anambra, where you have this issue of voter apathy, voter apathy greeting each election cycle. Like in 2021, you remember that Anambra registered about 2.7 million voters, and of that figure, less than 10% of it decided the outcome of that process. And this cannot continue. So we have to find some very creative means to increase voter participation. And this is exactly what our party is doing. And I'm very happy that the leader of the party, Professor Charles Soludo, has taken the stage to clarify the motivation for what we are doing as a party.
I mean, it's interesting the defense you've put up. I'm just trying to make comparisons with other parts of the world. If that's how politics are being played, if that's how they play politics there, where you have to say, give me this polling unit, I'll give you $1 million. Let's not drag this too much with you. Perhaps one day we'll get the chance to speak to your principal himself and we'll throw those questions to him. But I'm not sure how concerned you are that in the Southeast region, 5 states, 3 are now APC states. There are rumors of the Labour Party governorship governor there perhaps defecting to the APC as well. We have seen a second-term governor in Bayelsa State defect to the All Progressives Congress in the South region. So, my question is, how much longer can APGA and Professor Charles Soludo hold on to is it the chicken now? How much longer can there be that swap, or how much longer can we have that swap between the cock and the broom?
You know, when we say these things, it looks like Nigeria or this democratic dispensation started yesterday or started in this particular dispensation. From 1999 up until date, this has been like a rinse and repeat kind of thing. You know, every now and then you see political actors defecting from one party to the other, you know, largely because down here, there's this awkward, mindset about or understanding about politics or political parties as mere SPVs. We've had some gladiators define political parties as SPVs, special purpose vehicles that you can just use and dump at will and all that. You know, but in APGA, we don't see it that way, and that is why I've always told people that the APGA cock is a very resilient cock. You know, so it has gone through even more horrendous political seasons and came out quite unscathed. So I tell you that if you come to Anambra, APGA is a religion. You know, if you ask, there's no family you go to in Anambra that you don't have at least one person who is a member of APGA, if not members of APGA. So the gale of defections, like I said, are not new. They've been there and they've dotted our political, evolution. You know, but what has been quite constant is that in spite of all this, that APGA has remained quite firm. And maybe, we have to begin to think along the line of, in the words of the national leader of the party, that's Professor Chukwuma Soludo, when he said parties now should begin to align along their ideological orientation. So if you ask an average political observer now, what's the difference between the PDP and the APC? Maybe he can only remember the epochs and not necessarily what they stand for in terms of programs, in terms of policies, in terms of their agenda for the people. So, but we need to really evolve, even if it has to do with even if it gets to that point where we can only operate a two-party system. I think it's fair enough and good for us. When we get to that level of political maturity, then we can be able to discuss, political ideas away from just seeing parties as special purpose vehicles. So I think that's where we're evolving to. And we're not shy to say that progressives will continue to work together. And that doesn't vitiate the fact that APGA, as the foremost progressive party, maybe not the largest, but as the foremost progressive party, is at the vanguard of advancing the politics of ideology. And will remain so, even if we are the last man standing or we're the lone voice in the wilderness, we'll continue to advance for the politics of ideology. So people can align with political parties that meet with their ideological orientation and not just seeing parties as special purpose vehicles. So we'll get to see more of this until we get our political culture right.
Considering, the proclaimed friendship between your principal and President Bola Tinubu, we wonder if the G in APGA would soon become a C, because they are progressives anyway. All progressives for the two parties. We must anchor our conversation at this time. And thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming on the program. It's been an interesting and a revealing one. We've had Mr. Jumoke Okpara, National Publicity Secretary, All Progressives Grand Alliance, and Mr. Udoji Amedu, who is a PDP stakeholder in Anambra State. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed. When we return from this break, it will be time to review that presidential pardon list that has been toned down to 35 following considerations by Mr. President. Stay with us for this one. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Let's get to have that conversation now, as President Bola Tinubu has not only reviewed, he has also revised the previously announced lists of presidential pardons and clemency. Inibege Efyong is a human rights activist and legal practitioner. He joins us live now from our Abuja studios. Owomi, good to see you again this morning. Allow me get a bit mischievous with you this morning. The president of Nigeria, your friend, whom you have been very critical of, the father of the nation, as politicians call him, he has listened to you. He has bowed to the pressure. You were here on this platform criticizing him of this presidential pardon. He has listened to your voice, Nibege. How happy are you to hear him bow to this pressure of your voice?
Good morning, and thank you for having me. I think, like you rightly noted, your question has an element of mischief, but that is on a lighter note. Whether the president is the father of the nation or not is a subject of debate. What I know is that I have a president called Bola Tinubu, and to some extent, to his credit, it is good that that list has been reviewed. The initial list that was published was an embarrassment. It was a dent, not only on this country, but on the character of the government itself. So when some of us came out publicly to distance ourselves from it, to deprecate the names that appeared on that list, we expected that something would be done about it. Now there's an argument that some lawyers are making, some of our colleagues, whether the president can review that list or not. I initially had taken a more cautionary approach by saying that, look, yes, Mr. Bayo Onanuga, the special advisor to the president on media and strategy, had stated, published a list which he had said the president had granted pardon, to the extent that what was done at the time was limited to a public statement. We can say that the process of pardon was incorrect in law. In other words, it was incomplete, because for a presidential act in the nature of a pardon to be said to have been fully exercised, there has to be an instrument, okay, evidencing the exercise of that power. And that is what President Bola Tinubu has done. And we have now seen certain instruments, various instruments that have been issued for various categories of beneficiaries of this prerogative of mercy. So now that there is the instruments evidencing the pardons have become absolute, or the prerogative of mercies so granted are now irreversible. But we now further interrogate how come that the previous list even came to public light. If you look at the process for issuance of pardon under the Constitution, I cite specifically Section 175 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. It involves three institutions: the President, the Council of State, and the Presidential Advisory Committee on Prerogative of Mercy. Now, before an announcement is made, it is expected that the Presidential Advisory Committee on Prerogative of Mercy, headed by no less a person than the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, would have scrutinized the list, vetted the profile, the records of the individuals who are to be recommended to the president for pardon or commutation of sentence or whatever aspect of prerogative of mercy is to be exercised. Now, when the president receives the report or recommendation of the Presidential Advisory Committee, the Constitution mandates that the president will, in consultation, that is, the president will now go before the Council of State and say, oh, these are the persons that I want to exercise the power of prerogative of mercy in their favor. All right. What is your thinking on it? So I am making a case that while it is commendable that the president had made tinker a bit with the list, we must now ask a legitimate question about the manner in which decisions are being taken by this government. What this speaks to is that either this was done intentionally to send a message to Nigerians that as far as the issue of pardon is concerned, these are the categories of offenders that the president has interest in. Or those who had responsibility to advise the president may have either been compromised or grossly incompetent. But whatever position one decides to take, I am not satisfied that the president has not taken action regarding the membership of that committee.
All right. Just before I get to ask you my next question, let's get to remind our viewers why this presidential pardon list was really very controversial. It had the name of Miriam Sanda there, who was convicted 5 years ago, 2020, for culpable homicide of her husband, Bilyaminu Bello, and initially sentenced to death by hanging. Perhaps we can have that slide on the screen now for our viewers to see. It also has Kelvin Prosper, described as a notorious kidnap kingpin whose activities spanned multiple states. There's also Farouk Lawan, a former member of the House of Representatives, sentenced to 5 years in 2021 for bribery, collecting about $500,000 from a businessman. And then there's the convicted drug offender there, and list and all of that. So just to remind our viewers why this list perhaps was a bit controversial, this top 4 issues or persons why that list was also really sparked outrage and outburst amongst Nigerians here in the country and around the world. But Inibege, you are saying that perhaps heads should roll. Give us some of those.
Yes.
Give us a sense of some of those offices or persons you think that Mr. President indeed should be questioning or relieving of their duties.
If you read the statement of Mr. Bayo Onanuga, there is a paragraph that I found rather interesting. That is the paragraph in the statement where he said that in order to avoid this kind of embarrassing episode in the future, that the president has now directed that the secretariat of the Presidential Advisory Committee on Prerogative of Mercy should be relocated from the Ministry of Special Duties to the Ministry of Justice. Does that mean that the president has found that the Ministry of Special Duties was compromised, or that the Ministry of Special Duty is inefficient? It is not enough to simply make these announcements. I am saying that if truly the president is remorseful, if truly the president has now admitted that he was wrong and is now making this concession in favor of public opinion, it is not enough to simply make certain reversals. Who made these recommendations? At whose instance were these names, the original names, put on the list? The president should be interested in addressing that. You see, because there is one point that we have to make and stress very seriously. And that is that when the president exercises the power of prerogative of mercy, he speaks eloquently to the character of the president. And I'm going to elaborate on that. If you have a president say, the person that I want to exercise this very unique power that the Constitution has vested in me in favor of, and you now choose that there are going to be persons convicted of hard drugs, engagement in trafficking of cocaine, there are going to be persons who committed grievous murder, there are going to be notorious kidnappers, there are going to be persons who stole public funds. Does that not say a lot about the thinking of the president? Does that not say a lot about the priority of the president? So this is not just about exercising power. Because in exercising that power, The Constitution demands that the president should act in the public interest. So whose interest is the president advancing? And look at the case of Mary Amsanda. We are now being told, from what we have seen, the instrument I have seen, that her sentence has now been reduced from death by hanging to 12 years imprisonment. She has already served about 6 years and 8 months. And what is the reason given? It is in the interest of the children. She has become a model for other prisoners, a change in character, and so on and so forth. But guess what? There are 1,000 Mary Amsanda across custodial centers in Nigeria. She is not the first woman who has been convicted and sentenced today for killing her husband. Why is her case special? Nigerians deserve some explanation. I concede that this is a matter of discretion. The point, however, is that in exercising this discretion, the president has to show, the president has to demonstrate to Nigerians that he's acting in good faith. This woman has only served for about 6 years and some months for taking the life of her husband, Bill Yamiyu, in a very dastardly way. Read the judgment of the court. Read what the judgment said. So I am not certain that 12 years is sufficient for the grievous crime that she committed and the manner she committed it. I am not even sure whether she is truly remorseful. But I leave that for the president. Now, in the list that has now been published, people should not assume that persons convicted of drugs are not beneficiaries. They are. Because it seems a section of the media is conveying the impression that persons convicted of drugs are completely excluded. I have looked at the list, even as I'm talking to you. I could count in total about 86 names. Some of those persons whose sentences have been reduced, they were convicted of engagement in illicit drugs. If the intention, I want to emphasize, is to decongest our custodial centers, how about persons convicted of petty offenses? Have Nigerians asked that question? How about persons who are victims of political persecution? How about persons who are convicted of stealing monies that are not significant? There are still, how about persons that were given options of fine that may even be less than $1 million? How come the president has not deemed it fit to exercise his power of prerogative of mercy in their favor? That is persons convicted of federal offenses. So I am saying that something fundamentally went wrong. And the president has a responsibility to address that. What he has done is applaudable, but it is not sufficient.
Well, thought-provoking questions that you're asking there, Mr. Effiong. And, you know, one might wonder about people who also have been awaiting trial for years and they're behind bars. I don't know whether they fall within the category of prerogative of mercy. But you raised a very critical question about the further statement in the paragraphs in the statement released by Mr. Bayo Ononuga, and which is the movement of the Secretariat from Ministry of Special Duties to where was it now? To another ministry. Why is that
Ministry of Justice.
Ministry of Justice? Why is that not sufficient to ensure that in the future the processes of granting prerogative of mercy is transparent? And who do you think should be taking the heat at this point in time from Mr. President in terms of not having advised him accurately on this list of prerogative of mercy that has stirred controversy?
The answer is certain. It is the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation. Because when you say you are moving the Secretariat, what is the Secretariat? Is it the chair? Right? Is it the books, their records? What is Secretariat? So, when the Secretariat was in the Ministry of Special Duties, who was the head of the committee? It is still the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation. So what's really, in practical terms, what difference will it make to say you have relocated? Of course, that may have certain advantages in terms of maybe proximity to the Attorney General. But given the preeminence, given the importance of prerogative of mercy, the Attorney General had a responsibility to advise the President properly. He is the chief law officer of the country. That is what Section 150 of the Constitution says. And I always tell the only ministerial position that is created under the Constitution expressly is that of Minister of Justice. There is no other ministerial position in Nigeria under our Constitution that is expressly created under the Constitution. Section 150, read along with Section 174, creates the office of Minister of Justice and Attorney General. That shows how important that office is. So the Attorney General has a responsibility to account for what has happened. But there are other members of the committee. What was their position in making the initial recommendation to the president? Right? And they are telling us the president consulted with the Council of State in reviewing the list. To your knowledge, was the Council of State reconvened? Did he consult with them virtually, via Zoom, via telephone? Did he call all the former heads of states individually to consult with them? They have not told the Council of State and had regard to public opinion. I have not seen any evidence that the Council of State met, because I know that the Council of State traditionally convenes at the presidential villa. So there is no evidence that the Council of State was actually convened to reconsider this list. Because the president, constitutionally speaking, cannot exercise power or prerogative of mercy in favor of any person without consulting with the Council of State.
So you're suggesting that there's been political interference that has shaped that list?
Of course, that is what it is. It is political. It is political. Was former President Goodluck Jonathan consulted in reviewing the list? Did he call former President Obasanjo? Did he call former head of state Ibrahim Babangida? Right? Did he call all the chief justices of the Federation? Who are the members of the Council of State that were consulted in reviewing the list? How did he consult with them? They should tell us. So I have doubts, and I believe it's a reasonable doubt, on whether the constitutional process for awarding this pardon and commutations have been satisfactorily met. But to the extent that instruments have been issued, the principle of regularity in law maybe can avail the president, because that principle, that presumption of regularity says that acts of government of this nature are presumed to be regular. But I'm saying that presumption is not without exception. The president actually convened the Council of State to consult before reviewing this list. Why has the Attorney General not made a statement to explain his role and apologize to Nigerians? We live in a country where public officers seems to be allergic to accountability and offering apology.
Mr. Ifeong,
it's not enough to simply say you have reviewed the list.
Let's expand the conversation now. You know, one of the advantages of having you on is to also get your legal insights on other issues related or perhaps remotely distant. Finally, your associate has been released from Kuje prison after 3 days. He put out a post talking about being illegally detained. That's on the one hand. I would like you to provide insight to his case. If Jeffrey were here, he would say he was a regular caller with the Nigeria police. And on the sidelines of that is Nnamdi Kanu's case, who has now decided to enter a no-case submission, saying there's no need for a defense. From where you stand, is that a strategic legal move? Because we understand also that the judge in this case has advised, strongly advised against that. So speak to these two issues, Mr. Ifeong.
Thank you. On the Sowore matter, it is a historic mistake for the IGP, Mr. Kayode Ebetoku, to assume or believe or convince himself that he can subdue Sowore. This is not an act of hero worship. I just want the IG to know that Sowore is a veteran of the struggle for democracy in our country. Sowore has been imprisoned not only under the current civilian dispensation, but even by military regimes. Sowore had his NYC certificate seized. Until date, it has not been released to him. As president of Student Union in UNILAC, Sowore led the struggle for the rights of Nigerian students and for the reinstatement of their mandate of Abiola. So this is not someone that one Inspector General of Police can assume that he can use charges, use his men to subdue. He is making a mistake, and he has personalized the matter. And that is what I find very appalling. Because under the Police Act of 2020, it is prohibited for a police officer to use his position in pursuit of personal objective. If Sowore says you are an illegal IGP, and your response to that is to act illegally, I, as a lawyer, may not want to call you an illegal IGP, because National Assembly said they had passed a law extending your tenure, even though that is of doubtful legality. But if I don't call you, if I'm reluctant to call you an illegal IGP, will I be reluctant to call you an IGP of illegality? Because what he has now done is a clear case of illegality. You are saying Sowore violated a court order. You did not go to the courts to complain. The order you claim he violated, you never served it on him, even as I'm speaking to you this morning.
All right.
Which was a precondition for that order. You arrested him, took him to court. The court granted him bail, remanded him in the custodial center in Kuje. The correctional service did not take custody of him. You decided to send your men to witch hunt him, to attack him. This is condemnable. On the Nnamdi Kanu matter, I had cause to make a post on social media to say that, look, I think it is a risky gamble. I don't understand the strategy of his defense at this time. There are two options really open to him at this point. Because the issue of whether he has a case to answer or not has been settled, subject to an appellate review. The court has ruled that he has a case to answer. So he has to put up his defense. Either he enters his defense or he rests his case on the case of the prosecution. But to say that the issue of jurisdiction will be recontested, which the Supreme Court in some way seems to have taken a position, of course the party has the right to raise objection at any time. And the law is that no matter how stupid, no matter how frivolous an objection is, a court has to entertain it and rule on it one way or the other. So I believe that the Honorable Justice Omoto show that my Lord is going to rule on this his latest objection. But I think it may be more expedient for him to open his case and give evidence in his trial. But this is not for me to decide, because he has fired his counsel, led by former senior advocate of Nigeria, Gado Agabi SN. I'm not privy to the reasons for that, but I'm just saying that I do not understand the strategy at this point. It seems like a risky gamble to me. Because to now leave the evidence of the prosecution unchallenged might be risky. That is not an admission of guilt. The law remains that the learned judge must still examine the evidence of the prosecution to see that all the elements of the offense are proved beyond reasonable doubt.
Inibege, as always, listening to you dissect these issues and walking us through how the law works and the legalities and all of that is always really very interesting. But, I mean, on the earlier issue, which has to do with the clemency and presidential pardon, it's a significant reduction to that list from 175 to 86. Whether this is still going to generate some sort of controversy the coming days and weeks will be interesting. But almost anchor at this point, human rights activist, legal practitioner Inibege Effiong, as always, thank you indeed for stopping by our studios.
My pleasure always. My pleasure always.
All right, this is the morning brief. When we come back after this break, we get to the last part of the show, and we have an interesting conversation because it has to do with our health, particularly as it concerns women more. Perhaps some would say it has to do with abortion, the concerns, data and disturbing numbers around it, as well as our laws. We're back in just a moment. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. It's still the morning brief right here on Channels Television. And before we head into the next leg of our conversation, let's tell you very quickly that following last story, our earlier report about the traffic gridlock on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, on the Kara portion to be precise, involving multiple trucks, there's a sad update that 2 persons may have died. Our correspondent, was held up in that traffic, and he reported live earlier on. 3 persons now, according to reports. He's still there, and he'll be bringing us up to speed later on what exactly is happening as far as, efforts of security agents to restore sanity to the scene of the incident. It's at Kara end of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Again, this is a traffic advisory to everyone who may be traveling that route.
Outbound Lagos.
Yes. So let's head right into the next leg of our conversation. And it's about the Senate's proposal for an amendment to the criminal code which seeks to impose stiffer penalties on processes that aid abortion. Now, there isn't a very clear-cut policy, national policy on abortion, but there are laws governing abortion in Nigeria to the effect that it can only be allowed in the case where the life of the pregnant mother is at risk, and there are variations to abortion in terms of either the criminal code in Nigeria's south or the penal code in Nigeria's north. What does this mean for reproductive health for pregnant mothers, and not just pregnant mothers, for young persons as well who may find themselves pregnant, teenage pregnancy? So joining us to have this conversation this morning, we have Mr. Talamo Wycliffe Dabb. I hope I got your name correctly, sir. He is an obstetrician and gynecologist who joins us from our Abuja studio. And right by him there, we also have Mr. Lucky Palmer, the country director, IPAS, Nigeria Health Foundation. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen, on the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
I'll start with you, Mr. Palmer. I'd like to get your thoughts on what this proposal by Nigeria's Senate means for reproductive health of pregnant mothers and, of course, young persons who get pregnant.
Thank you. I think it makes it a bit more gloomy for Nigerian women. Right now, Nigeria has the highest maternal mortality in the world, and some of the contributions of that are issues around unsafe abortion. And the proposal that is being made can even put threaten the life of doctors and nurses and midwives, and that means that if a woman finds themselves in a situation where, for whatever reason, they have a miscarriage, then nobody's there to help them. And that will probably not increase the number of maternal deaths that we have in our country. So for us, it's about how do we ensure that the rights of women are protected? How do we ensure that the government does not regulate how women live their life? I think we're a country where we are people of faith and we're people of individual. So I think every woman has the right to their life and the right to determine what to do with their body. Our law tries to regulate the woman's body, but does not attempt to regulate the man's body. I think that is itself discriminatory in our law, and it's something that we need to talk about. So I think this attempt by the Senate might be an opportunity to have a broader conversation around the laws that regulate issues around miscarriages and abortion. And the way it's being framed right now, it talks about miscarriages. So does it mean that if a woman who has malaria takes malaria tablet and then she falls sick and she's miscarried, does that make her a criminal? Does it make the doctor who provided services for her a criminal? So we think, or what we are actually asking for, is for a broader consultation so that we can review this together with different spectrum of our society and come up with the right law that will save our lives and help us reduce maternal mortality in Nigeria. Right now, Nigeria have the highest number of absolute number regarding maternal death annually. That is number of women who die either during pregnancy or 6 weeks after pregnancy. And it's cause of this, the cause of death is due to the pregnancy complication. For instance, somebody was raped, she doesn't want the pregnancy, she becomes pregnant, does not want it, and struggle to get rid of the pregnancy, and she dies. Are we going to blame her? We are saying if you're raped, or you are kidnapped and you are raped, you should carry the pregnancy to term, you should have the child of your rapist. I'm sure no father, no mother will want their daughter to carry the child of a rapist. So for us, it's about having a broader conversation around it. It's not just about this clause alone in the CAP, in the Nigerian Criminal Code and Penal Code. We feel we should open it up for broader conversation So that one, our doctors, our obstetricians and gynecologists should be empowered to do what is best to save every Nigerian girl, every Nigerian woman in Nigeria, irrespective of where they're born, irrespective of the situation they find themselves. Let's leave that medical decision to the doctors to do.
Right.
I mean, like we say, like we tell people in our office, abortion itself is healthcare. It's not a criminal. It's not a crime.
All right. Let's take it to Mr. Da. I have a follow-up question for you, Mr. Palmer, but let's take it to Mr. Da. Do you agree that this is misdirected as well?
Dr. Da.
Dr. Da.
Yes. It's a misdirection. I need us to understand that if you enact a set of laws that you do not have the capacity to enforce in terms of real lack of the things that necessary things you need to enforce them, and in terms of the readiness of the general population to obey it, what happens is that it spells trouble to the whole reproductive health of the country. My reason is now the punishment is made stiffer, and that means those who used to go underground to secure abortion, which kills women when it's poorly done, are going to go more. The numbers have doubled over the past 5 years or a decade of those who seek abortion. The numbers have doubled, and that also means that the numbers of those dying from abortion is going to double. And if the punishment is made stricter, without, I don't know whether there were big consultations and so on, but in the House of Reps, where it was, the law started, and also in the Senate. But if there were, I think more greater consultation need to be done, because it will drive abortion deeper low, and more people are going to die. I think what we are against is that people should not die having an abortion. Things should be put in place where quacks will not be allowed to make, to give things to girls that will easily kill them. But the more stiffer the punishment is made, the more things go wrong in our country. And that is the implication for reproductive health. We are going to have more trouble on our hands if you are at the end of seeing how battered girls come at the point they want to die. You will understand with me that this is exactly the trouble that we are afraid of and what we are fearing. That for reproductive health, we are going to brace up for more work, we are going to brace up for more deaths and for more injuries to girls and women.
Well, let's take the conversation back to Mr. Palmer now. So I'm not sure what other alternatives you're willing to explore. But take, for instance, in the U.S., when the Supreme Court made that really very historic judgment overturning the Roe versus Wade case, it now allowed for states to determine each individual, each state to determine their laws. So I'm not sure, are there plans for you to go to the Supreme Court if perhaps engagements with the House of Reps goes south? And then are you also proposing, or what are you also proposing? Do you think states should perhaps be allowed to handle issues around their abortions peculiar to their states and environment?
Yeah, okay. I think first of all, if you look at, you mentioned the United States, which is right, and if you look at the global maternal mortality indices among the Western Hemisphere or the global North, I'm not sure the US is one of the best in terms of maternal mortality. So that also points some fingers to us to look at and to learn from. But then coming to our own country, I think we have a law right now that I normally I will refer to as the Colonial Masters Law. It's a law given to us that's over 156 years old. And when you go through that law, you see some clauses there that tells you that these are old laws that need to be changed to our modern realities. It talks about So there's a bit of contradiction in the law now with the modern realities. Now there are medications that can be used safely to induce abortion, but law only talk about surgical operation. So there are a lot of things that have to be done. So first of all, let's open the conversation up. I think Nigeria is ripe to discuss that we need to review the Nigerian abortion law in totality. It's a 156-year law. I'm not sure there's anybody in Nigeria today living that was born when that law entered our criminal law book. So which means that it's enough for us to take a step and look at it and look at the reality of our country. Let me give you an example. There are some states, there are some local governments, in fact, many local governments, for example, that does not have a registered pharmacy living in them. There are plenty. There are some states that probably have just 2 obstetricians and gynecologists registered who are practicing in the state. So there are issues around women pregnancy management in the state because of lack of specialists. Why don't we even talk about that? And that's why, for example, if you look at the current Minister of Health and his team, they are so much passionate about reducing maternal mortality. And one of the critical causes that have been acknowledged worldwide, and especially in Nigeria, that causes that contribute to maternal mortality is unsafe abortion. Whereas abortion saves lives if it's done by right persons, trained properly, within the right circumstances.
Let me quickly come in there.
So the question is, why don't we go to that option?
Let me quickly come in there, Mr. Palmer. Another contributor to unsafe abortion is young persons who are engaging in unprotected sex and falling pregnant. So I understand your argument about the need to give some form of liberty to women over their reproductive health. But how do we balance that with the need for the sanctity of human life? Because a fetus is also life that is growing.
Yes, thank you very much. The fetus is a life that is growing, definitely. But then the question is, the fetus can only survive if the person carrying it is also alive. And that's why, one of the languages in the law talk about preservation of the mother's life, which is beyond just saving the mother. If the mother does not live, that fetus cannot survive. Okay, so in terms of saying young people having sex, it may interest you to know that, a lot of people that go for safe abortion in our country are married people and elderly because they know what to do and are able to afford and can pay for it. But we have more young people dying because they do not have money for it, they do not know where to go, and because they are even denied contraception by the society. So the society itself, you say, we do not think that you should have contraception, access to contraception because you are too young. And then you become pregnant, or maybe you are raped, you become pregnant. So I say, you must carry it, we must give you double punishment. Why don't we even open up the space for contraception and then provide comprehensive sexuality education in our schools and let the young people make their own decision? If you can allow a young person to say, what, I want to study medicine, or I want to study science, I want to go to the university to study, why do we think she should not have information that will enable her to make a decision around her sexuality, or whether they even want to have sex or not? But the more we continue to keep the conversation about sex away from them, the more they want to exploit it, and the more they get into trouble.
All right. Let's speak to Dr. Da for a moment. We are beginning to wind down on our conversation now. Dr. Da, on a scale of 1 to 10, because you are the obstetrician here and gynecologist, on a scale of 1 to 10, how safe is it for one to carry out an abortion?
It's 10 if you are talking about a skilled obstetrician and gynecologist. It's 0 if you are talking about a quack. And every other person with the different skills will fall in between.
All right. So I imagine that you would have perhaps carried out some of these kind of cases yourself. But what did I say to you? I mean, I know I'm trying to put you on the spot, but what did I say to you? And how do you think religion plays a very big part of some of the key decisions in our country? Is that also a factor and concern here?
Yeah, you have two questions. The one that concerns me, I practice according to the law of Nigeria. You can terminate a pregnancy to save a woman's life. As a matter of fact, if a woman is pregnant and is so sick that I know that the physiological changes and the things in pregnancy will terminate her life even before the time, I'm the first to tell the woman that, Madam, please, I know you want to have the pregnancy, but it's going to endanger your life. You're going to die. And yes, I will terminate it. But because I'm trained, it's going to be safe. As for religion, it plays a part. Now, and the part depends on which side of the divide somebody is. Some religions prevent people from even preventing pregnancy itself. And some, taking things that will prevent pregnancy. If you do contraception like you were saying and prevent pregnancy, perhaps you will reduce the burden by 30%.
All right. All right. The complexity of the issue compels, a round table where all shades of opinion in every part of the country should be covered. That's right. And that's why, this perhaps is the starting point for this criminal code amendment that will prescribe stiffer penalty for abortion. I believe the law said, the new proposal says from 3 to 10 years for anyone caught aiding an abortion. We must thank you very much, gentlemen. We've been talking with Dr. Talamo Wycliffe-Da, an obstetrician and gynecologist, and Mr. Lucky Palmer, the country director, IPAS Nigeria Health Foundation. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
And this is where we draw the curtains on the program today. Thank you so much for being there. We'll be back with the home stretch tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka.
And from Lagos, Nigeria, I am Kelly Egiga. Just before we go, a quick update again on the Kara accident, where we can confirm to you, our viewers, that this accident, we understand, occurred around 10 p.m. last night, where two vehicles were burnt. The tow truck, we understand, arrived to tow these vehicles in the early hours of this morning when an oncoming truck, another oncoming truck, lost his brake and collided with the towing vehicle and the other vehicles who were also stopped there. So far, our correspondent says that 3 persons have been sadly confirmed dead, while some other victims, we understand, are still in the river. So hopefully these will bring you up to speed with more developments, and we hope that it doesn't get any worse than what we are seeing or hearing. Thank you so much for staying with us here on the Morning Brief. Stick around here on Channels TV. Sunrise Daily is next. Good morning.